My darling people, it's your hottest gift-giving auntie in town, Aunty Gistina. And today's story, it go shock you. Love, betrayal, second chances. Grab your zobo and come close. Let's gist. Tunde and Eniola were the couple everyone envied. From the very first day in secondary school, they were drawn to each other like magnets. Tunde, the charming, focused young man with dreams bigger than his pocket, and Eniola, the radiant beauty with laughter that could light up a room. They were inseparable. Through SS1 to SS3, through jam stress, and even during their NYSC year. Friends called them Mr. and Mrs. Perfect. They had dreams, big dreams. Tunde wanted to become the most sought after event planner in Nigeria, while Eniola spoke about starting her own line of luxury skincare products. They supported each other, cheered each other on, and celebrated every small win. On the surface, their love was the type poets write about. But time, they say, reveals all things. Beneath the flawless Instagram pictures and public affection was a growing distance. Late replies, missed dates, and subtle emotional absences crept in. Yet, Tunde, ever hopeful, held on to the idea that this was just a phase. Love, real love, fights through the hard times, right? He didn't know then that what he was holding on to was not love, but an illusion, a fantasy of what once was and what would never be again. It started with small things. Eniola stopped asking about his work. She became distracted during their conversations. Our once vibrant eyes that used to light up whenever Tunde spoke about his ideas for clients now seemed distant and disinterested. One night, Tunde came home after a long day planning a high profile event. He had good news. His team had just landed their biggest contract yet. But when he excitedly told Eniola, she merely nodded, eyes glued to her phone. No hug, no excitement, no I'm proud of you, just a lukewarm smile that didn't reach her eyes. He tried to talk to her. He asked if she was stressed, if everything was all right. She always answered with a tired, I'm fine, but she wasn't fine. Their connection, the one that had once felt unbreakable, was now a fragile thread. Then came the nights out with friends she never introduced, the sudden need for privacy, the frequent lies wrapped in casual excuses. Tunde's heart began to whisper things he didn't want to believe, but still, he stayed, hoping, praying, convincing himself that love meant staying even when things were hard. Saturday, 4:15 p.m. Tunde will never forget that moment. He had arrived early to help set up for his friend Dare's surprise birthday party. He walked into Dare's apartment with balloons in hand and a smile on his face. But what he saw froze him in place. There, on the couch, was Eniola in the arms of Dare. The betrayal didn't hit him like a slap. No, it felt more like a slow, suffocating choke. He couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Dare jumped up shocked, stuttering, trying to explain. Eniola stared at him, guilt etched into her face, but not a single word of apology came out. Tunde dropped the balloons. He turned and walked out, tears blurring his vision. Outside, the city carried on, oblivious to the chaos in his chest. The girl he had planned his life around had shattered him, and the friend he trusted had stabbed him in the back. In one single moment, love became pain, trust became a joke, and forever was just a lie people told to make themselves feel safe. The weeks after the betrayal were a blur. Tunde locked himself in his apartment. He ignored calls, avoided social media, and let his voicemail pile up. He couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. His once orderly space was now filled with empty pizza boxes and silence. At night, he replayed every moment, Every red flag he ignored. Every time he defended Eniola when friends hinted at trouble. The pain wasn't just heartbreak, it was the feeling of being made a fool. But Tunde wasn't one to stay broken for long. One morning, he looked at his reflection and barely recognized himself. Hollow eyes, beard untrimmed, hope gone. That's when he knew it was time to rise. He threw himself into his work. He redesigned his brand, hired a new creative team, and started saying yes to bigger, bolder events. He didn't just return, he reinvented. Every event he planned was a masterpiece. People called him a genius. Clients flew him out of the country. Tundi was back, but different, stronger, sharper, colder. He had rebuilt his empire, but the heart that once beat freely was now guarded like a fortress. To the outside world, Tunde was living the dream. Feature spreads in lifestyle magazines, influencer shoutouts, and back to back booked events. He was the man of the moment, the man who made magic happen. But success, he realized, was a poor substitute for companionship. He dated beautiful women who admired his success and posed with him for the gram, but none of them saw him. Not the real him. They saw the brand, the story, the man who had it all together. But at night, when the events ended and the cameras were off, Tunde sat alone, alone in a penthouse that echoed with silence. He scrolled through old pictures, not of Eniola but of himself, smiling, innocent, full of faith in love. That version of Tunde felt like a stranger now. He started writing again, letters to a future he wasn't sure would ever come. Dear whoever you are, he would begin. I don't know if you'll ever find me, but I hope you'll see beyond the tuxedos and spotlight. I hope you'll see the man behind the magic, the man who once loved deeply and hopes quietly that he'll love again. Across town, Bola's laughter had become an echo of what it used to be. Once a vibrant and free spirited photographer, she now found herself shrinking into a version of herself she barely recognized. Her relationship with Oyin, a fellow creative, had started with fireworks. They met at an art exhibition in Victoria Island, him with his edgy sculptural installations, her with her soulful street photography. They clicked instantly, or so she thought, but love quickly turned to control. Oyin became possessive, jealous of her rising recognition. He'd critique her work harshly, calling her compositions childish, saying she was only successful because she looked cute with a camera. He started deciding which gigs she could take, what she could post, and who she could talk to. Bola began to walk on eggshells. She stopped wearing bright colors. She dimmed her light. Her once adventurous photo walks were replaced with claustrophobic studio shoots. She didn't laugh as much. She stopped sharing her dreams. Then one day, after yet another argument where Oyin smashed one of her framed works in a fit of rage, Bola stared at the broken glass and whispered to herself, I deserve more. That night, with nothing but her camera bag and her dignity, she left. Bola moved into a small apartment in Surulere. The walls were bare, the bed was hard, but for the first time in months, she could breathe. No yelling, no gaslighting, no emotional tug of war. Just her, her thoughts, and her lens. She dove headfirst into travel. First Ghana, then Marrakech, then up the coast to Cape Verde. She'd wander through spice markets, trek through villages, and capture quiet, unfiltered moments. An old woman weaving baskets, children playing by the roadside, lovers sharing a laugh at dusk. Her photos began to reflect a quiet power, a woman slowly rediscovering herself. Magazines took notice. Her work began to grace gallery walls. She did interviews, TEDx talks, and even a cover feature titled The Girl Behind the Lens Reclaiming Power Through Art. She smiled again. not for anyone else, but for herself. She had become a woman who survived the storm and came out with gold in her spirit. Still, on nights when the world went quiet, she'd find herself staring out the window, wondering, is there still someone out there for me? 2 years later, under the golden sun of a lavish Lagos beach wedding, fate began to stir the winds of destiny. Tunde had been hired to plan the event, a five-star ceremony with helicopter entrances, custom LED lighting, and live orchestras. Bola had been recommended as the lead photographer by the bride's cousin. Neither of them expected what happened next. As Bola stepped into the venue, camera slung over her shoulder, Tunde caught sight of her. Her presence felt like a breath of fresh air, not loud or dramatic, just real. Her afro bounced gently as she walked. Her eyes scanned the room with calm precision. Tunde watched her heart inexplicably racing. Bola, focused on her shots, didn't notice him at first, until during the bride's makeup session, she stepped into the hallway and nearly collided with him. Their eyes met. Time paused. He gave a polite smile. Hi, Tunde. She blinked, surprised. Oh, hey, Bola. Something unspoken passed between them. Not love at first sight, but recognition, a knowing, a curiosity, the kind that doesn't shout but lingers long after the moment has passed. The wedding was buzzing with music and joy, but all Tunde could think about was finding another moment to talk to Bola. After dinner, he spotted her by the palm trees, capturing candid shots of the groomsmen. Your work is beautiful, he said. She glanced at him, amused. Thanks. You know, most men open with, can I see the photos? I'm not most men, he replied gently. They talked, first about work, then about photography, then about the places she'd been, the culture she'd captured. Bola spoke with passion, her hands animated, her eyes alive. Tunde, usually composed, found himself laughing, really laughing. He told her about his events, the people, the madness, the joy. She listened, really listened. For the first time in years, Tunde didn't feel like he had to perform. He wasn't Tunde the planner with the perfect suit and perfect life. He was just a man intrigued by a woman who reminded him what genuine joy looked like. As the night wound down, Bola offered him a ride home. Just for gist, she teased. That ride turned into a 45-minute conversation in her car, parked outside his apartment, with neither of them wanting to be the first to say goodnight. The days that followed were full of surprises. Tunde found himself texting first. Bola found herself replying faster than she normally would. They met up for casual brunches and long walks on Lekki's quiet back streets. They argued about art versus commerce, debated jollof rice recipes, and laughed till their stomachs hurt. But beneath the budding joy lay a fragile undercurrent. Fear. Tunde, though smitten, still struggled with trust. He flinched when conversations grew too personal. Sometimes he pulled back, disappeared for a day or two, returning with awkward jokes to mask his emotional withdrawal. Bola noticed. She didn't push. She had learned the value of patience. But one night after a quiet dinner, she softly said, I don't want to be a filler in someone else's healing process, Tunde. I like you, but I need to know this is real. Tunde looked at her, heart in his throat. He knew he was falling, but falling meant risk. And the last time he fell, he landed in shards. Still, as she looked at him, not with pressure, but with sincerity, he realized something. Bola wasn't like Eniola. This wasn't manipulation. This was someone giving him the choice to be brave again. And maybe, just maybe, he was ready. Chapter 11. Ghosts of Yesterday. Just when things started to feel right, the past came knocking, literally. It was a quiet Thursday morning. Tunde had just returned from a successful event in Abuja when he received the message, Can we talk? Please, Eniola. He stared at it for 5 minutes, then 10. His stomach churned. He hadn't heard from Eniola in over a year. The nerve, the audacity, and yet the curiosity. What did she want? Against his better judgment, he agreed to meet. Closure, he told himself, just closure. They met at a small cafe in Ikoyi. Eniola looked different, older maybe, or just tired. She spoke with a mix of regret and nostalgia. She told him Dare had left her, that life hadn't been what she expected, that she still thought about him, about them. I made a mistake, Tunde, she whispered. I was stupid, I was selfish, but I've changed. Tunde didn't speak for a long time. His emotions wrestled like warriors: anger, confusion, pity, sadness. But one thing was clear: her words no longer pierced him, because for the first time he wasn't lost. He wasn't wishing she'd come back. He was already somewhere else, emotionally, spiritually, with someone who saw him, who didn't just want him, but chose him every day. And so, with grace in his voice and peace in his chest, he replied, Eniola, thank you for the apology, but I've moved on. Though Tunde had closed the door with Eniola, a storm had already begun brewing in Bola's heart. She hadn't asked questions, but she had seen the shift, the silence after his trip, the way he became quieter, distant. She didn't want to be the insecure partner, but a voice inside her whispered, Is this the beginning of the end? When they met at his apartment days later, she was quiet. He noticed. Talk to me, he said. Bola looked at him, vulnerable. Did something happen in Abuja? Or someone? Tunde sighed. He knew this was the moment. He told her everything about the message, the cafe, the conversation with Eniola. Bola listened, every word, her face unreadable. Then she asked the question that really mattered. Do you still love her? No, he said without hesitation. I love the idea of her, but not her, not anymore. Tears welled in her eyes, not from pain but relief. And as the storm passed, calm settled between them. They had faced the past and chosen the present together. From that moment, everything changed. Walls came down, vulnerabilities were shared. They told each other stories they had buried. Tunde spoke of childhood wounds, of feeling unseen, even in a crowd. Bola shared how Oyin used to rip apart her dreams until she barely believed in herself. They healed in each other's presence, not with grand gestures, but in the ordinary moments. Late night jollof cooking battles, road trips with broken playlists, quiet evenings spent in bookstores. Tunde would sometimes pause mid conversation, staring at Bola with disbelief. What? She'd ask. I didn't know I could still feel like this, he'd whisper. They weren't perfect. They still had moments of insecurity, misunderstandings, but they had learned to talk, to listen, to fight fair. Their love wasn't loud or flashy. It was steady, deep, sacred. It was the kind of love you don't shout about online because you're too busy living it in real life. 6 months later, Bola landed a solo photography exhibition at a major gallery. The theme? Love in Color, a visual journal of her travels, her healing, and her moments with Tunde. He was there, front row, eyes shining with pride. As she gave her speech, she looked at him and said, This collection is for the people who've ever thought love wouldn't find them again. It will, sometimes not when you expect it, but when you need it most. Tunde wasn't just clapping, he was beaming. He had never seen himself through someone else's eyes quite like this. That night, as they walked through the city hand in hand, he stopped and pulled her close. I love you, Bola, he said for the first time, fully, completely, without fear. She smiled, teary eyed. I love you too, Tunde. 2 years later, They stood on a cliff in Santorini, Greece. Tunde had planned it all, disguised as a destination shoot for Bola's portfolio. As she adjusted her camera to capture the sunset, he dropped to one knee. Bola, you taught me how to live again, to love again. Will you marry me? She gasped, then laughed, then cried. Yes, 1,000 times, yes. They didn't rush the wedding. They built a life first, a home full of books and photographs and playlists that told their love story. Tunde's event became more meaningful. He focused on love stories, not just aesthetics. Bola's art grew even richer. They traveled the world, him planning moments, her capturing them. Together, they built a life where laughter was loud, forgiveness was swift, and love was the foundation. And in the quiet of every night, as they curled up together, they'd often whisper, imagine if we never got a second chance. But thank God they did. And in a world full of heartbreaks and half loves, Bola and Tunde became living proof that sometimes love doesn't come once. Sometimes it comes when you've learned how to love yourself, when the pain has taught you what you truly deserve, when you're ready not just to receive, but to give fully, freely, without fear. A second chance at love isn't a step backward, it's a leap into something better, something deeper, something real. You see this life where we day so love fit break your heart today, but tomorrow we go surprise you with healing and laughter. As for Tunde and Bola, them no rush, them no force am. Na real love find them when them done heal finish. Na me, your ever vibrant, always gist ready Aunty Gistina, signing out. But no worry, I dey come back with another hot story. We go pepper your soul and sweet your bell. Until next time, stay sharp, stay soft, and abeg, no let anybody play you like Ludo.